This time it's 5 calf racers from the 1970s. The calf racer is classically a British concept, of course, with riders racing each other between cafes during the 1960s. However, into the 1970s, the major Japanese manufacturers don't tend to make calf racers. This is simply because they're concentrating on the American market, where calf racers aren't really a thing. Hence those high bars and the soft suspension units found on many Japanese superbikes of the 1970s. However, if calf racers really were your thing, you still had some choice out there. And here's 5 of them. The Ducati 750 and 900 SS. During the 1960s, Ducati had been well known for producing its single-cylinder Desmodronic drive sports bikes, and while there would be a V-twin 500cc model in Grand Prix racing, this was very different from what came later. The bevel drive bikes really begin with the Imola 750 Desmo, a competition machine that Paul Smart rode to victory at the Imola 200 in 1972, based on a design first laid out by Fabio Taglioni in 1970. This had led to the GT model of 1971, and then on to the Racer, which led of course to the SS Sporting models. 74 would see the first year of, relatively speaking, mass production, with around 400 of the bikes being completed. With its high compression Desmodronic valve operated engine, wrapped in a lightweight frame which made the bike weigh around 151 kilos or 333 pounds, the machine offered truly great performance by the standards of the time. However, it was extremely expensive to manufacture, so in 1975 a revised version of the engine, notable for its square cases, was offered. This was simpler and easier to mass produce. This does mean that the round case 750s are particularly highly valued and will cost a premium today. Alongside the 750 came a new 864cc version of the engine, giving us the 900 SS. The 750 was now a sleeved down version of that engine. Again, production numbers were very small, with only around 250 versions of each model being produced in 1975. And so the SS would go on in low volumes, with fairly modest changes only being made during its lifetime. But ultimately the high cost of manufacture would put an end to the machines, with the belt overhead cam design of Taglioni being quite simply much cheaper to mass produce. Moto Guzzi Le Mans. The story of the Moto Guzzi Le Mans really starts with the V7 Sport of the early 70s. But the V7 Sport was expensive to produce, and so at the end of 74 it was replaced by the 750S, a relatively simpler design, which would lead on to the 850cc Le Mans of 1975, with its 840cc engine being based on that of the T5. And indeed the T5 could actually out-accelerate the Le Mans simply because of its lower gearing. Fun fact. But the Le Mans offered 80 horsepower at 7,300 RPM claimed, for top speeds somewhere north of 125 miles an hour. So performance was roughly the same as the Ducati SS's, although the Le Mans was actually much more of a commercial success, selling in far greater numbers than the Ducatis, with just over 2,400 machines being sold in 76 alone. By comparison, that's almost 10 times the number of Ducatis sold. This does mean that the machine is much more affordable today if in the market for a 70s Italian sports bike, and the relative simplicity of the design makes it very easy to live with too. The machine had excellent performance by the standards of the time, although the riding position is very sporty, so long distances can be a chore. And early models did not feature filtration on their carburettors, so small mammals should keep their distance. Like most Italian bikes, the period build quality could be a bit variable, so chrome and paintwork isn't necessarily the most durable, but the basic mechanics are very solid. There are a lot of Le Manses running around with very high mileages. 1978 we see the introduction of the Mark II. This is essentially the same machine but with very different bodywork, which offers very good weather protection compared to the original. But the Mark II is seen as less desirable, so many Mark IIs have now been converted to Mark I spec. This has made the Mark II a surprisingly rare sight on the roads today, and in common with all the later versions of the Le Mans, it can be had for much less money than a Mark I. But whatever model you choose, the Le Mans can offer an excellent CAF racer experience, if of course you've got arms strong enough to hold the throttle open. The Harley-Davidson XLCR. Yes indeed, you heard that right, Harley-Davidson did make a CAF racer during the 1970s. The XLCR was of course based on the sports models, first introduced in 1957, in reaction to the growing popularity of the British parallel twins in the US market at that point, and was a development of an earlier side valve machine. The XLCR was actually developed by Bob Madero, Jim Harbert and Willie G. Davidson himself, with some elements being taken from the XR750, such as the fuel tank, but on the XLCR the whole thing was painted black and given a BMW style bikini fairing. To me the whole machine looked sensational, but lethargic performance and slow steering meant that the bike was a commercial flop. However, in the years since, the bike has become very much a desirable classic, with few bikes available on the market. The Laverda Jota. Now, Laverda had primarily been a company concerned with the production of lightweight machines during the 1950s and 60s. However, the company's general manager, Massimo Laverda, believed that the future lay in the production of larger capacity machines, and this would lead to the development of the 750 parallel twin, which used an engine very closely based on Honda's CB77 unit. But even while the machine was in development, Laverda were already thinking of the next big thing, and this would be a 3-cylinder unit based on the 750 single overhead cam engine. And indeed the first prototype was very different from what came later, having a 120 crank and a single overhead cam layout. However, by the time the engine reached production, it had changed to a 180 crank after a series of crank failures and dual overhead camshafts. The first model of the 3C arrived in 1973 and ran a 75 by 74mm bore and stroke for 981cc and top speed in around the 130 mph mark. Meanwhile, over in England, the UK importer Slater Brothers were fitting the engine with 4C cams and 10.1 pistons from the racing SFC models. This gave the bike excellent performance at the expense of some vibration at high RPMs. And this model, dubbed the 3CE, E standing for England, would lead on to the Jota. And the CAF Racer Jota would be sold in various other markets, although the spec would vary between countries. 1978 would see a revised frame, in common with the new 1200 models. But 1982 would see the greatest change of all, with a move to a 120 crankshaft to improve smoothness at higher RPM. But alas, the 120 would never be as popular as the original model. The Norton Commando John Player Special. Norton's Commando had first been introduced in 1967 as a 750 Roadster. It was introduced to replace the aging Atlas at the top of the range. And while the Atlas did use the same 750 motor, it had a bad reputation for vibration. And this had inspired the introduction of the isoelastic frame used on the Commandos. And the engine was mounted at an angle to give it a more modern look, but was essentially the same pre-unit design with a 4-speed gearbox. But the new frame made the engine much more usable. The Norton could be used on motorways in comfort. Consequently, the machine was a commercial success for much of its production run, with over 60,000 units being sold. The first model introduced was the Fastback, which was later accompanied by the Roadster, and this American-style Roadster with its high bars. There was also a very dubious factory custom model. But despite the company's racing history, there wasn't an actual CAF racer model. Well, that was until 1974, that is, and the introduction of the John Player Special Works replica, whose development had been inspired by the Formula 750 Works races of the early 70s, which of course had been sponsored by John Player's cigarette company. The machine itself was actually based on the Commando 850 Mark IIA, and around 200 of these machines were actually produced, of which around 120 was sent to the USA. However, if you were a serious racer, the factory listed the short-stroke 750 engine as an option. What other bikes or collections of bikes would you like to see us feature in a future video? Maybe you've got a bike we can use for a test ride. Either way, get in touch below. Hope you enjoyed that video. If you did, don't forget to like and subscribe, and of course, thanks for watching.